He-Jin stared at her reflection in the mirror and sighed. Even after 20 years, she still couldn't get used to how different she looked from everyone else on the space station, where the other beings were tall and willowy, with delicate features and graceful movements. She was shorter, more muscular, and moved with a strength that made others nervous. She pulled on her specially made uniform, designed to fit her denser frame. The standard uniforms would tear if she moved too quickly. That had been embarrassing to discover during her first day of training. "He-Jin, you're needed in Cargo Bay 3. Ray's gentle voice came through the room's speaker. Like all the Celestials, Ray's voice had a musical quality that He-Jin's deeper tones could never match. "I'll be right there," He-Jin answered, quickly tying back her dark hair. She knew what this call meant. Something heavy needed moving, and she was the only one who could do it safely. The corridors of Station 7 were built for the celestial species, with high ceilings and wide passages that made He-Jin feel even smaller. As she walked, others moved aside, giving her respectful nods. They weren't afraid of her anymore, not like when she was younger, but there was still a distance they kept. It was hard to be close to someone so different. In Cargo Bay 3, Mayra waited next to a large container that had fallen from its shelf. The anti-gravity unit had failed, and now the box, containing vital medical supplies, was too heavy for any Celestial to lift. "I'm sorry to bother you again," Mayra said, her silver eyes showing genuine concern. "We tried using the lifting robots, but they're all busy in Bay 1 with the new shipment." He-Jin smiled. "It's no bother. This is why I'm here, right?" She bent down, testing the weight of the container. It was heavy, even for her, but manageable. With a grunt, she lifted it, muscles straining as she carefully placed it back on its shelf. A small crowd had gathered to watch. He-Jin pretended not to notice the whispers. "Look at her strength. Thank the stars she's on our side. I heard she's the last of her kind." That last whisper hurt the most, because He-Jin knew it was true. The Celestial Council had told her the story many times, how they had found her as a baby, the only survivor on a damaged ship. Her home planet was unknown, her species a mystery. All they knew was that she came from what they called a death world, a high-gravity planet that would crush most galactic citizens. Mayra shooed away the onlookers and placed a gentle hand on He-Jin's shoulder. "Would you like to join me for evening meal? I'm trying out a new protein-rich recipe I think you might enjoy." He-Jin nodded, grateful for Mayra's constant efforts to make her feel less alone. The older Celestial had raised her, had never treated her like a curiosity or a tool. But even Mayra couldn't fully understand what it was like to be the only one of your kind. Later that night, in her quarters, He-Jin looked out at the stars through her reinforced window. Somewhere out there was her home planet, or at least what was left of it. Somewhere out there might be answers about who and what she was. But for now, she was here, useful but alone, strong but isolated. She pressed her hand against the cold window. The stars stared back, silent and distant, keeping their secrets about her past. Tomorrow would be another day of being different, of being the strong one, of being the only Deathworlder in a galaxy of delicate beings. Or so she thought. The warning lights in Engineering Section 4 flashed red, catching He-Jin's attention as she passed by on her daily rounds. She checked her tablet. No alerts had been sent out, which was strange. Curious, she pressed her hand against the door scanner. Inside, she heard grunting and the sound of metal scraping against metal. Someone was working on something heavy. He-Jin moved quietly toward the noise, ready to help whoever was struggling with the equipment. What she saw made her stop dead in her tracks. A male figure in a standard engineer's uniform was lifting a fusion core stabilizer. Alone. The stabilizer weighed at least 300 kilos. Even He-Jin needed help with those. But this person was moving it like it was just another piece of equipment. "Careful with that," she said without thinking. "The power connections are fragile." The figure turned, and He-Jin got her first good look at him. He was built like her, solid, muscular, but not tall. His skin was a different shade than hers, and his features were nothing like her own, but there was something familiar about his sturdy frame. "Thanks for the warning," he said, carefully setting down the stabilizer. His voice was deep like hers, not musical like the Celestials. "I'm due one, new transfer from, well, that's complicated." He wiped his hands on his uniform and gave her a friendly smile. Hejin couldn't stop staring. "You're like me," she said. "You're strong, really strong." Her heart was beating fast. In 20 years, she had never met anyone who could lift like she could. Do-Won's eyes widened as he looked at her more carefully. "You're not celestial," he said. "Are you from a high-gravity world, too?" I don't know where I'm from," Hejin admitted. "The Celestials found me as a baby. They say I must be from a death world, but they never found out which one." Do-Won nodded slowly. "I'm from Earth. Gravity there is about 3 times what it is here. That's why we're built differently from the Celestials." He paused. "I thought the Council was keeping Earth classified. How are you here?" "Earth." Hejin tested the word. "I've never heard of it. The Council tells me I'm the only Deathworlder in the galaxy." She felt a mix of emotions. Excitement at meeting someone like her, but also confusion and a hint of anger. Had the Council lied to her? "Well," Do-Won said, "they're wrong about that. There are billions of us on Earth." He picked up a tool and started working on the stabilizer again. "Want to help? This job would go faster with 2 strong people." Hejin moved to the other side of the stabilizer, lifting it easily with Do-Won's help. As they worked, they talked. Do-Won told her about Earth, about growing up in a place where everyone was strong like them. Hejin shared stories about living among the Celestials, about being different. "I can't believe I'm not alone," Hejin said as they finished the repairs. "All this time, you're definitely not alone," Do-Won assured her. "And I think you should know something else. I've seen markings like the ones on your arm before, in Earth's historical records." Hejin touched the strange birthmarks on her arm that none of the Celestials had been able to explain. "What do you mean?" "We should talk more," Do-Won said. "But not here. Meet me in the station's garden after your shift. There's a lot you need to know." Hejin nodded, her mind racing with questions. For the first time in her life, answers seemed possible. She wasn't alone anymore. And maybe, just maybe, she was about to discover who she really was. The station's garden was quiet during the night cycle. Hejin sat on a reinforced bench, watching the artificial stars twinkle on the dome above. She had come early, too excited to wait in her quarters. Her mind kept going back to the birthmarks on her arm and what Do-Won had said about them. She heard his footsteps before she saw him, heavy and sure, just like hers. It was strange how comforting that sound was. "You came," Do-Won said, sitting down beside her. The bench creaked but held firm under their combined weight. "I brought something to show you." He pulled out a tablet and turned it on. "These are images from Earth's ancient history," he explained, showing her pictures of old stone carvings. "Look at the markings around the edges." Hejin's breath caught in her throat. The swirling patterns were exactly like her birthmarks. "What are they?" "They're Nexaran script," Do-Won said. "Your people, they visited Earth thousands of years ago. They came from another high-gravity world, just like Earth. Some of our oldest stories talk about them." Before Hejin could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind them. "He's right, Hejin." They turned to see Mireille standing there, her silver eyes reflecting the artificial starlight. She looked tired and sad. "You knew." Hejin stood up, her hands shaking. "You knew about Earth, about my people." Mireille nodded slowly. "The Council ordered us to keep it secret. They feared that if Deathworlders found each other, you might band together, become too powerful. So you lied to me." Hejin's voice cracked. "Let me think I was alone." "We wanted to protect you," Mireille said. "Both humans and Nexarans are incredibly strong, incredibly capable. The council worried that together, you might take over, might hurt the weaker species. Do-1 stood up too. We're not monsters, he said firmly. We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want to live our lives, same as everyone else. I know that now, Mary said, working with Hejin all these years, watching her grow up. I know the council was wrong. That's why I made sure Do-1 was transferred here. It was time for the truth. Hejin stared at her adoptive mother. You arranged this. Mary smiled sadly. I couldn't tell you directly. I swore an oath to the council. But I could help you find out on your own. There's more, Do-1 added gently. The Nexarans didn't just disappear. Some of them still exist, living in hidden colonies. The council keeps their locations classified, but they're out there. Hejin sat back down heavily. Her whole world was changing. She wasn't alone. She had a people, a history, maybe even a future with others like her. The council will be angry, Mary warned. They don't want this information getting out. They can't keep us apart forever. Hejin said, It's not right. We deserve to know who we are, where we come from. Do-1 nodded. Earth has been pushing for open contact. That's why they allowed a few of us to work on stations like this. It's a test. Hejin looked at her birthmarks again, seeing them with new eyes. They weren't just strange patterns. They were letters, words, a connection to her past. Will you help us? She asked Myrey. Help us find the truth. Myrey straightened up, her silver eyes determined. It's time for things to change, she said. And yes, I will help you. Both of you. Whatever it takes. Above them, the artificial stars continued their eternal dance, witnesses to secrets finally coming to light. The station's garden was quiet during the night cycle. Hejin sat on a reinforced bench, watching the artificial stars twinkle on the dome above. She had come early, too excited to wait in her quarters. Her mind kept going back to the birthmarks on her arm and what Do-1 had said about them. She heard his footsteps before she saw him. Heavy and sure, just like hers. It was strange how comforting that sound was. You came, Do-1 said, sitting down beside her. The bench creaked but held firm under their combined weight. I brought something to show you. He pulled out a tablet and turned it on. These are images from Earth's ancient history, he explained, showing her pictures of old stone carvings. Look at the markings around the edges. Hejin's breath caught in her throat. The swirling patterns were exactly like her birthmarks. What are they? They're Nexaran script, Do-1 said. Your people, they visited Earth thousands of years ago. They came from another high-gravity world, just like Earth. Some of our oldest stories talk about them. Before Hejin could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind them. He's right, Hejin. They turned to see Miri standing there, her silver eyes reflecting the artificial starlight. She looked tired and sad. You knew. Hejin stood up, her hands shaking. You knew about Earth. About my people. Miri nodded slowly. The council ordered us to keep it secret. They feared that if Deathworlders found each other, you might band together, become too powerful. So you lied to me. Hejin's voice cracked. Let me think I was alone. We wanted to protect you, Mary said. Both humans and Nexarans are incredibly strong, incredibly capable. The council worried that together, you might take over, might hurt the weaker species. Do-1 stood up too. We're not monsters, he said firmly. We don't want to hurt anyone. We just want to live our lives, same as everyone else. I know that now, Mary said, working with Hejin all these years, watching her grow up. I know the council was wrong. That's why I made sure Do-1 was transferred here. It was time for the truth. Hejin stared at her adoptive mother. You arranged this. Mary smiled sadly. I couldn't tell you directly. I swore an oath to the council. But I could help you find out on your own. There's more, Do-1 added gently. The Nexarans didn't just disappear. Some of them still exist, living in hidden colonies. The council keeps their locations classified, but they're out there. He-Jin sat back down heavily. Her whole world was changing. She wasn't alone. She had a people, a history, maybe even a future with others like her. The council will be angry, Myre warned. They don't want this information getting out. They can't keep us apart forever, He-Jin said. It's not right. We deserve to know who we are, where we come from. Do-Won nodded. Earth has been pushing for open contact. That's why they allowed a few of us to work on stations like this. It's a test. He-Jin looked at her birthmarks again, seeing them with new eyes. They weren't just strange patterns. They were letters, words, a connection to her past. Will you help us? She asked Myre. Help us find the truth. Myre straightened up, her silver eyes determined. It's time for things to change, she said. And yes, I will help you. Both of you. Whatever it takes. Above them, the artificial stars continued their eternal dance, witnesses to secrets finally coming to light. The emergency alarms woke He-Jin from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed across her room as the station's eye spoke. Warning. Critical failure in Core Section 6. All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately. He-Jin jumped out of bed and pulled on her uniform. Core Section 6 was where the station's main power systems were housed. If something went wrong there, the whole station could be in danger. Her communication device buzzed. It was Do-Won. He-Jin, get to Core Section 6 now. It's bad. She ran through the corridors, passing scared Celestials heading in the opposite direction. When she reached Core Section 6, she found Do-Won and Tae-Ho, his supervisor, staring at a screen showing the core chamber. The cooling system is failing, Tae-Ho explained quickly. Pressure is building up in the chamber. If we don't fix it soon, the whole core could explode. Why can't the repair robots handle it? He-Jin asked, watching the pressure readings climb higher. The pressure is already too high, Do-Won said. The robots would be crushed. We need someone to go in there manually and replace the broken cooling rod. He looked at He-Jin. Someone strong enough to withstand the pressure. He-Jin understood immediately. Only she and Do-Won could survive in there. How long do we have? 20 minutes, maybe less, Tae-Ho said. But it's too dangerous. The council wouldn't want us to risk. The council isn't here, He-Jin interrupted. And there are 10,000 people on this station. She turned to Do-Won. We go together. He nodded. Together. They quickly put on protective suits, specially made for their stronger bodies. The suits wouldn't protect them completely from the pressure, but they might help them survive long enough to fix the problem. The broken cooling rod is in Section C, Tae-Ho said through their headsets. You'll need to remove it and insert the new one. But be careful, one wrong move could trigger an explosion. He-Jin and Do-Won entered the airlock. As it cycled, they looked at each other. Ready? Do-Won asked. Ready, He-Jin answered. The inner door opened, and immediately they felt the pressure pushing against them. It was like being deep underwater, but worse. Every step was a struggle. He-Jin's muscles strained as they moved forward. They reached Section C and found the broken cooling rod. It was glowing red-hot, and the metal around it was warping from the heat and pressure. I'll pull it out, Do-Won said, gripping the rod. You get ready with the new one. He-Jin held the replacement rod, watching as Do-Won pulled. The broken rod was stuck. The pressure made it hard for him to get a good grip. Together, He-Jin said, moving to help him. Side by side, they pulled. Their combined strength finally made the rod move. Hurry. Tae-Ho's voice crackled in their ears. Pressure is reaching critical levels. Working as one, they removed the old rod and quickly inserted the new one. The moment it clicked into place, the pressure began to drop. It's working, Tae-Ho reported, relief clear in his voice. The core is stabilizing. Get out of there, both of you. They made their way back to the airlock. supporting each other against the remaining pressure. When they finally got out, they found Mira waiting with medical teams. "You did it," she said, helping them remove their helmets. "You saved everyone." He-Jin looked at Do-Won and smiled. "We did it together. That's what Deathworlders do. We help people." "Yes," Do-Won agreed. "But now the whole station knows about us. Things are going to change." He-Jin nodded. The secret was out. But maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. They had just proved that being different, being strong, wasn't something to fear. It was something that could save lives. 3 days after the core incident, He-Jin stood before the Celestial Council. The meeting room was packed with observers, all wanting to see the Deathworlders who had saved the station. Do-Won stood beside her, both of them looking strong and proud despite their tiredness. The head counselor, a tall celestial with flowing silver hair, spoke first. "You broke our laws by revealing the existence of Earth and the humans," she said, her musical voice stern. "This information was classified." "With respect," He-Jin answered, "keeping us apart was wrong. Look what happened when we worked together. We saved 10,000 lives." Murmurs filled the room. Many of the station's residents had come to support them, including Mireille and Taiho. "She's right," Taiho stepped forward. "I've worked with Do-Won for months. He's one of our best engineers. Being strong doesn't make him dangerous. It makes him valuable." The council members whispered among themselves. He-Jin could see some nodding, while others looked worried. "There's more," Do-Won said. "Earth wants to join the galactic community openly. We're tired of hiding, and He-Jin deserves to know about her people, the Nexarans." An older council member leaned forward. The Nexarans were warriors. They were powerful, like you. That's why we kept their existence secret. "I've lived among you my whole life," He-Jin said firmly. "Have I ever hurt anyone? Have I ever been anything but helpful?" She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of celestials she had worked with for years. "Being strong doesn't make us bad. It just means we can help in ways others can't." Mireille stood up from her seat. "I raised He-Jin. I watched her grow up, watched her learn to be careful with her strength, to help others. The council was wrong to make her think she was alone." The head counselor raised her hand for silence. Perhaps we were too cautious. But what do you propose we do now? The information is spreading through the station. Soon the whole galaxy will know." "Let them know," Do-Won said. "Let us be bridges between our peoples. Earth has technology and knowledge to share. And maybe if we work together, we can find the lost Nexaran colonies." He-Jin felt hope rising in her chest. "We could help protect weaker species, not harm them. Isn't that better than hiding who we are?" The council talked among themselves for a long time. Finally, the head counselor spoke again. "We will need time to consider all of this. But for now, you have proved yourselves trustworthy. You may continue your work on the station. And what about finding my people?" He-Jin asked. The head counselor's expression softened slightly. "We will share what we know about the Nexarans. It's time for that truth to come out as well." As they left the council chamber, He-Jin felt like a great weight had lifted from her shoulders. No more hiding, no more pretending to be less than she was. "You did well in there," Do-Won said quietly. "Things are really going to change now." "Good," He-Jin replied. "Change is needed, and we'll help make it happen." Outside the chamber, many station residents waited to thank them, to shake their hands, to see the Deathworlders who had risked their lives to save everyone. He-Jin saw no fear in their eyes now, only gratitude and respect. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was full of possibilities, and she wasn't facing it alone anymore. He-Jin pressed her face against the ship's window as Earth came into view. The planet was beautiful, swirls of blue and green under white clouds. It looked heavy and solid, just like Do-Won had described. "Ready?" Do-Won asked, standing beside her. "The gravity will be stronger than you're used to. I was born for this," He-Jin said, excitement making her voice shake a little. After 2 months of planning and getting special permission, she was finally going to visit Earth. Their ship landed in a place called Seoul. He-Jin felt the difference as soon as she stepped out. The gravity pulled at her more strongly than the station's artificial gravity. But instead of being uncomfortable, it felt right. Her muscles seemed to remember this weight, even though she had never experienced it before. "Welcome to Earth," Do-Won said proudly. He led her through the spaceport, where hundreds of humans moved around them. He-Jin couldn't stop staring. Everyone was built like her and Do-Won, solid and strong. Nobody was giving her strange looks or moving away in fear. "They're all like us," she whispered. "All of them." "Come on," Do-Won smiled. "I want to show you something." They took a ground vehicle, a car, to a large building. Inside, He-Jin saw humans lifting heavy weights, running at high speeds, and practicing fighting moves. It was a gym, Do-Won explained, where humans trained to be even stronger. "Want to try?" he asked, pointing to some weights. He-Jin nodded eagerly. For the first time in her life, she could test her full strength without worry. She lifted the weights while other humans watched and cheered her on. Some even asked to train with her. "You're strong even by Earth standards," one of the trainers said admiringly. "Must be your Nexaran heritage." Later, they'd visited Do-Won's family home. His parents had cooked a huge meal, enough food to actually fill He-Jin's appetite. They sat around a table built for people of their strength, using normal chairs that didn't creak under their weight. "How do you like Earth so far?" Do-Won's mother asked kindly. "It's amazing," He-Jin said, looking around the normal-sized room with its sturdy furniture. "Everything here is built for people like us. I don't have to be careful all the time." That evening, they went to a park where children were playing. He-Jin watched in wonder as they ran and jumped with the same strength she had, their parents not worried at all about them breaking things or hurting each other. "I never knew it could be like this," she said softly. "A whole world where being strong is normal." "And there could be more worlds like this," Do-Won reminded her. "The Nexaran colonies are out there somewhere." He-Jin nodded, watching the sunset paint the sky in colors she had never seen on the station. "I love the station, and the Celestials who raised me," she said, "but being here, it feels like finding a piece of myself I never knew was missing." "You can have both," Do-Won said. "We're proving that different kinds of people can live and work together. The station needs people like us, and we need them too." He-Jin smiled, feeling the Earth's gravity holding her firmly in place. Tomorrow they would visit more places, meet more humans, learn more about this world of strong people. But for now, she just enjoyed the feeling of finally, truly belonging somewhere. "Thank you for bringing me here," she said to Do-Won. "For showing me I'm not alone." Above them, stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there was Station 7. And beyond that, maybe her own people. But now she knew she would never have to face that journey alone again. He-Jin sat in Earth's Global History Center, surrounded by old books and digital screens. After a week on Earth, she had started researching everything she could find about the Nexarans. Do-Won sat beside her, helping her search through ancient records. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a screen showing old cave paintings. "These markings are from 10,000 years ago. They show tall, strong people coming from the sky." He-Jin studied the images carefully. The figures in the paintings had the same birthmarks as her, the same swirling patterns that she now knew were writing. "There's more," Do-Won said, bringing up another screen. "Ancient stories from around the world talk about powerful visitors who helped humans build huge stone buildings. They taught humans about the stars and how to work with metal." "Can you read any of the writing?" He-Jin asked, touching her own birthmarks. "Some of it," Do-Won nodded. "Earth scientists spent years studying it. The marks on your arm, they're a family name. It means Starwalker in the Nexaran language." He-Jin felt tears in her eyes. All her life, She had wondered about these marks, and now she finally knew what they meant. Starwalker, she whispered, testing the word. Just then, an older human woman hurried over to their table. She was a historian named Dr. Kim, who had been helping them research. I found something important, Dr. Kim said, setting down an old tablet. It's a star map from 5,000 years ago. It shows where the Nexarans came from. They looked at the ancient map together. It showed a star system not far from Earth, with 3 planets marked with Nexaran symbols. The Nexarans didn't just visit Earth, Dr. Kim explained. They helped prepare humans for space travel. They knew that one day we would meet again among the stars. But why did they leave? He-Jin asked. Dr. Kim brought up more records. According to these stories, they received a warning from their homeworld. Some great danger was coming. They had to return home quickly to help their people. And they never came back, Do-won added quietly. No, Dr. Kim said, but they left signs, clues in our oldest buildings, in our stories, in our art. They wanted us to remember them. He-Jin looked at a picture of an ancient temple. The doorway had the same marks as her birthmarks. They weren't just visitors, she said slowly. They were teachers, friends. Yes, Dr. Kim smiled. And look at this. She showed them another image, this one of a stone tablet. This writing says that some Nexarans stayed behind, married humans. That's why Earth humans are so strong. We have some Nexaran blood in us. He-Jin looked at Do-won with new understanding. No wonder they were so similar. Their peoples had been connected all along. There's something else, Dr. Kim said. The star map. Those coordinates are still good. We could find those planets today. He-Jin stood up, her heart beating fast. You mean we could find my people's homeworld? If they're still there, Do-won said, or at least find out what happened to them. He-Jin touched the star map gently. Somewhere out there was the answer to who she was, where she came from. And now, thanks to these human records, she knew where to look. We have to try, she said firmly. We have to find them. Dr. Kim nodded. I'll help you present this to the Earth Council. With this evidence, they'll have to support a search mission. He-Jin looked at her birthmarks again, her family name. Starwalker. Maybe it wasn't just a name. Maybe it was a destiny. 6 months after discovering the star map, He-Jin stood on Station 7's observation deck. The station had changed a lot since she and Do-won had saved it. Now it was home to both Celestials and humans, working together as equals. Mai-Ray entered the deck, carrying the data tablet. The first group of human students has finished their training, she said proudly. They've learned how to work safely among Celestials, and our people have learned not to fear their strength. He-Jin smiled. The training program had been her idea, teaching different species how to live and work together. How many stations now have human crew members? She asked. 12, Mai-Ray answered. And more are asking for them. Turns out having strong people around is quite useful. The observation deck's door opened again. Do-won walked in, looking excited. The Earth Council just sent their answer, he said. They've approved the search mission. We can go look for the Nexaran colonies. He-Jin's heart jumped. After months of planning and gathering evidence, it was finally happening. They had permission to follow the ancient star map and search for her people. The Celestial Council agreed too, Mai-Ray added. They're sending their fastest ship with a mixed crew, Celestial, human, and you. She touched He-Jin's arm gently. Are you ready for this? I've been ready my whole life. He-Jin said. I just didn't know it. Do-won moved to stand beside her. The ship leaves in 1 month. We'll visit all 3 planets from the map. And this time, we're not hiding anything. The whole galaxy will know what we find. What if? He-Jin hesitated. What if we don't find them? Then we keep looking, Do-won said firmly. But we already found something important. We found out that different species can work together, can make each other stronger. Mai-Ray nodded. Remember how scared everyone was of you when you were little? Now look. She gestured to the station below, where celestials and humans worked side by side. Change is possible. We just had to be brave enough to try. And you're not alone anymore, Do-1 reminded her. Whatever we find out there, you have a family here. He smiled. A very strong family. He-Jin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were the answers about her people. But Do-1 was right. She wasn't alone anymore. She had Myre, who had raised her with love despite their differences. She had Do-1, who had shown her that being strong could be a gift, not a curse. And she had a whole station of people who accepted her for who she was. You know what I think, she said slowly. I think this is what both our peoples wanted. Humans and Nexarans. They worked together in the past. Maybe they knew that someday we'd all need each other. The strong protecting the weak, Myre said. The weak teaching the strong about gentleness. Everyone contributing what they do best. That's the future I want to build, He-Jin said, no matter what we find out there. The stars twinkled before them, full of promise. In 1 month, they would begin their search for the Nexaran colonies. But He-Jin wasn't afraid anymore. She knew who she was now, not just a Deathworlder, not just a Nexaran, but a bridge between peoples. A Starwalker, just like her name said. And this was just the beginning of her journey.